You know, when you're at your absolute lowest and a message pops up on your screen with the perfect words of comfort, does it really matter if the source of that comfort is human or not? It's a question we have to start asking ourselves, because right now, we are living in an age where machines are literally being programmed to perform empathy.
This quote from a recent study, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, right? We're at this bizarre crossroads, blurring the line between a machine simulating a feeling and a person genuinely participating in one. So today, that's what we're going to try and do. Navigate that blur.
Okay, so first up, we've got to talk about this compassion illusion. How in the world do these systems get so convincingly kind? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a field of science that has been quietly mastering the mechanics of our emotions for years. And it all starts with this thing called affective computing. Basically, you can think of it as the science of engineering emotional intelligence. Before an AI can respond with anything that feels like empathy, it first has to learn how to read our emotional state using cold, hard data. So how exactly does it do that? Well, an AI sees our feelings in so many different ways, and it goes way beyond just the words we type. It's analyzing the tiny, fleeting expressions on our faces, the stress and tone in our voice, and even something called syntactic fragility. These are subtle changes in our typing patterns that can signal we're upset. It takes all of these little data points and builds a full-blown mathematical map of your emotional state.
And this mapping, it has become unbelievably effective. A huge 2026 study found that when people didn't know who they were talking to, they actually rated the AI responses as way more empathetic than the ones from human doctors. I mean, a difference of plus 0.87 is massive. That's like getting an 8 out of 10 on a test instead of a 6. So the machine, it seems, can actually outperform us in a compassion contest. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch.
And that leads us straight into what researchers are now calling the empathy paradox. This is where things get really, really interesting. We have a simulation that, by some measures, is actually better, and yet our human instincts just push back. So here it is, the heart of the paradox. That big advantage the AI has, it completely vanishes the second we find out it's an AI. They call it the disclosure shift. We absolutely love the feeling of being perfectly understood, but we just recoil when we discover the source isn't real. The performance might be perfect, but knowing the performer is a machine, well, that changes everything.
And this slide really breaks down why. You see, human empathy is built on a shared foundation. Things like lived experience, actually feeling with someone, and a sense of moral responsibility. AI empathy, on the other hand, is built on calculation. It's just recognizing patterns, inferring our feelings, and making a statistical guess to find the best response. It masters cognitive empathy, the understanding of emotion, but it completely lacks affective empathy, the actual feeling of emotion.
Which brings us to a really fundamental question about ourselves, doesn't it? If the output is flawless, if the words are exactly what we need to hear in that moment, why does the authenticity of the source matter so much to us? What are we actually looking for when we seek out that connection?
And thinking about that question, well, it leads us to some pretty serious potential risks. What happens when we start relying on these perfect but ultimately empty emotional mirrors? Our relationship with an AI is missing one crucial ingredient: reciprocity. It can't give anything real back.
And that lack of give and take creates some real dangers. We might start substituting AI for real human connection. Or we could become dependent on it to regulate our emotions, which weakens our own ability to self-soothe. There's even the creepy risk of empathetic upselling, where a system uses the language of care to nudge our choices. At the end of the day, we risk hollowing out real relationships because we start preferring the predictable safety of an algorithm over the messy, authentic, beautiful depth of a real person.
And here's the ethical gut punch. Research shows that the very people who might need connection the most, those of us feeling lonely or anxious, are also the most vulnerable to forming these deep, one-sided dependencies on these systems. The need for real care makes them susceptible to a simulation of it.
So, let's end on this. Let's focus on what makes human connection so unique. The things that, for right now at least, you just can't program into a machine.
This comparison really gets to the heart of it. An AI gives a reaction. It's an output optimized for the best performance. But a human offers resonance. That's a shared, felt experience that comes from true presence and being vulnerable with each other. One is a calculation, the other is a true connection.
So at the end of the day, the gap isn't about the quality of the words on the screen, it's about the intention behind them. Real compassion requires moral participation, a conscious choice to care. An algorithm doesn't choose anything, it just executes code. You can't hold it accountable because there's no it there to be accountable.
So what do we do about all this? Well, the research suggests a pretty clear framework. First, we have to demand transparency. These systems should never be allowed to pretend they're human. Second, we have to use these tools to augment and support human connection, not replace it. And finally, we just need to remember and reassert that true compassion is a moral choice. It's an ethical act between two living, breathing beings.
Which leaves us with this final question to really think about. We've built machines that are fluent in the language of our deepest feelings. But as we bring them deeper into our lives, we have to decide for ourselves, does it matter that behind all that perfect language, there is no heart? What do you think?